Good morning, everyone, and good afternoon to those of you who are not on the West Coast. Thank you for joining Aerohive's webinar 802.11ax Wi-Fi in the Real World. Your presenter today is Alexandra Gates. She's the Senior Product Marketing Manager here at Aerohive, and she will give us a practical overview of the new Wi-Fi standard, and that will help us understand early adopter strategies, plus benefits expected today in the next 12 months. A couple items before we begin. At this time, all participants are in listen-only mode. If you have questions during the session, please enter them into the Q&A box. We'll do our best to answer as many questions as we can after the presentation. We'll send out a link to the replay within a few days. Also, at the end of the presentation, we'll put up a slide containing information about how qualified attendees can receive a free access point. Alexandra, I'll turn it over to you and let you get started.
Thanks, Natasha, and thanks everyone for joining today. So if you've been reading the news in the wireless industry recently, you'll know that the newest IEEE standard is 802.11ax, or Wi-Fi 6, as deemed by the Wi-Fi Alliance. And we did a basic overview of 802.11ax in April of this year, but it's time to do an update again. The amendment has evolved a bit in the past 6 months. If you're new to 802.11ax, it addresses some of today's biggest high density and performance challenges. So we'll be going through the Wi-Fi evolution, some of the main tenets of 802.11ax, then touch on business use cases and client considerations, look to some real world case studies, and then wrap up with benefits that are seen today, and then a timeline of expectations for benefits that we will see in the future. And keep in mind, this isn't a sales pitch. 802.11ax as a standard applies to all vendors that are selling wireless access point, and it will be the new default moving forward in 2019. 802.11ax really is a transformation in the way Wi-Fi operates, as you'll see as we move through the content today. And if you look back at the past 21 years of Wi-Fi, the main focus of its evolution thus far has focused entirely on successively higher peak speeds. Wireless started back in 1997, so it's just turned 21, with top speeds between 2 and 11 megabits per second. That's because wireless was just a nice to have back then. There weren't a lot of devices that even used Wi-Fi, but as more wireless enabled devices have entered the marketplace and the dependence of Wi-Fi has grown, the standards have had to play catch up. So 802.11n brought about speeds of about 450 megabits. Again, that's on a data sheet. That coincided with the birth of the smartphone. 802.11ac brought us into the theoretical realm of gigabit Wi-Fi, but as we know, gigabit speeds might only be achievable in more of a controlled racetrack type environment of the RF lab. In reality, a lot of users are experiencing pretty frustrating slow data traffic, even when you're just trying to check your email on public Wi-Fi or in a busy office space. And 802.11ax seeks to remedy those exact type of situations. Note that 802.11n was called high throughput. 802.11ac was called very high throughput. So the question is, will 802.11ax be called very, very high throughput? No, in fact, it's being labeled high efficiency wireless. And it has a pretty challenging goal of improving the average throughput per user by a factor of at least 4 times in dense user environments. And you'll hear me say that quite a few times in the next 20, 30, 40 minutes or so. Dense user environments, that's the focus of 802.11ax. If you look beyond the raw link speeds of 802.11ac and AX, the new standard implements several mechanisms to serve more users consistent and reliable data throughput in crowded wireless environments, which pretty much every environment is today. Note on the slide there that the 802.11ax standard will operate in both the 2.4 gigahertz and the 5 gigahertz band, so that's a departure from AC, which only focused on the 5 gigahertz band. And as I mentioned, 802.11n and AC, they introduced some great new PHY and MAC layer enhancements to achieve higher data rates. So if you've gone on an Aerohive webinar before, you hear us talking about highways and faster cars. That's kind of the comparison we make with wireless networks. So with N and AC, we were building bigger highways and faster cars. but that's not always the answer, because this is kind of what happens. So think of a major highway or freeway near where you live that experiences bad traffic. Pretty much every state has a freeway that looks like this. Even if the speed limit on the side of the road says 70 miles an hour, you might be going 20 miles an hour because there's just too many cars on the road, which has led to traffic. So last night I landed at LAX and I was driving into Anaheim for an event. And again, the speed limit on the side of the road did say 70 miles an hour. I was pretty much going 12 miles an hour all the way down the freeway because there were just too many people packed into those lanes. And you can think of wireless networks in the same way. Most of the issues that are facing modern day Wi-Fi systems involve a degradation to system efficiency because there's just too much density and network traffic to successfully get everyone to be able to utilize the airspace at the same time. When you have more clients on the network or cars on the road, the chance of collisions is going to increase. We always get the question of how many clients can we connect to your access point? And if you've been on a webinar before or you know anything about wireless, you know that the answer pretty much always is going to be it depends. When a competing unnamed vendor that we compete against in the market space says that they can connect 500 people to an access point, keep in mind all those people are contending for the same airtime, and only one person can use the frequency domain or the channel at a given time because Wi-Fi uses a half duplex operation. Everyone has to take turns on the access point and with neighboring radios on the same channel, or no data communication would get through at all. Another issue that's been plaguing Wi-Fi networks is the fact that the bulk of data frames are very small, under 256 bytes. Even if my data payload is really small, there's a fixed overhead associated that will still take up time in the airspace as well. So that's something that we as vendors are trying to find a workaround for. 802.11ax now takes this into consideration. Another existing Wi-Fi problem that hasn't necessarily been solved thus far is real traffic management and application handling. So based on vendor software, Wi-Fi can prioritize a single station over another, but what if you have 18 high priority devices that are all contending for the same airtime? You can't effectively address multiple high priority clients at a time. The same goes for applications. You can set QoS policies, but the bottom line is that one person, one device, or one application is going to occupy the airspace, and everyone else has to wait to contend for the next opportunity. We know wireless is basically expected everywhere you go, so this is only compounding the problem. And IoT devices further complicate Wi-Fi networks. IoT devices are typically low-cost, low-powered devices that don't have advanced Wi-Fi chipsets or capabilities built in. 802.11ax has a few features purpose-built to serve these types of devices moving forward. Additionally, as I pointed out on that timeline slide, the past 10 years or so of wireless enhancements have focused solely on the 5 gig spectrum. So no matter what your opinion of the 2.4 gigahertz band is, there's still 3 usable channels that we need to use in enterprise-grade networks. 802.11ax adds some great enhancements to both bands, so we'll be able to serve all 802.11 devices. And with an ever-growing number of devices that are using Wi-Fi, along with the emergence of IoT that I just touched on, Wi-Fi networks need to be capable of managing dense usage, needs to be able to manage increased data traffic, and also that diverse mix of applications and services, and all of those have differing needs. So that's where 802.11ax enters the equation. So now we're taking those PHY and MAC layer enhancements and focusing them on better traffic management. The 802.11ax task group kickoff was in May 2014, and they've been working diligently ever since then to make 802.11ax a reality for real-world type environments. On the slide here, you can see the 7 main enhancements that are defined in the standard. This is available as a downloadable poster on our website. This is all vendor neutral, so it's just 802.11ax, the standard. We'll go into each of these 7 features over the next few slides, but the main takeaway from this poster is that these features are not net new. For example, OFDMA is a tried and true feature from the cellular world that's now being pulled into 802.11 technology. TWT, or target wake time, that's borrowed from 802.11 AH, and there are some enhancements to features that were introduced in 802.11 AC as well. First up is OFDMA. OFDMA is arguably the most important new feature correlated to 802.11 AX, so I'm going to spend a bit of extra time here. As a refresher, OFDMA is orthogonal frequency division multiple access. And if you take a step back first, so now looking at OFDM, so we've dropped the A, this is how 802.11 A, B, G, N, AC operates. So remember that RF is a half duplex medium, and at any given time, only one radio can transmit on a frequency domain, which is a channel. So effectively, this means that everyone takes turns. OFDMA divides a channel into narrow subcarriers. And the spacing is such that the subcarriers are orthogonal, so they don't interfere with one another, despite the lack of guard bands between them. So in OFDM, the total channel bandwidth, whether that be 20 megahertz, 40, 80 megahertz, contains multiple OFDM subcarriers. And now presently with wireless, any one frame transmission to one client has to use all the subcarriers in the bandwidth. So no matter how much data each client needs to send, whether it's big or small, all the subcarriers are assigned to a single client at a time. So you can see each of those 6 clients had to take turns. They all work separately. They can't share the channel width at the same time. Now imagine there's 100 people trying to do this. You can imagine it gets pretty hectic with everyone trying to contend for the same airspace. So here's another way to look at it. Hopefully this animation's working on everyone's screen that you can see. Say there's 6 clients in a room with a single access point. The AP has to successively communicate with each device and any mesh access points nearby one at a time. And with 802.11a or G technology, that can take quite a bit of time. Now with 802.11n, so now we're using a bit faster communication. If you can see the little puck moving forward, that's, the process is speeded up a bit. Remember, this is only 6 clients. If there was 50 waiting to talk to the access point, it would take a lot longer. And then with 802.11ac, it went even faster. However, I still have to talk to each device individually. Now, the big shift with OFDMA, there's different subsets of subcarriers called resource units that are being broken out in the channel bandwidth, and they can be used by different frame transmissions at the same time. So OFDMA can be thought of as a multi-user version of OFDM. And don't want to confuse that with multi-user MIMO of AC, but this is now multi-user OFDMA, completely separate beast to multi-user MIMO. Subcarriers can be allocated to transmission in blocks as small as 2 megahertz and theoretically serve between 1 and 74 clients at a time if you were to be using 160 megahertz wide channels. As we all know, that's not a good idea in a dense type environment. So on a typical 20 megahertz channel, which is what we recommend, you can serve between 1 and 9 clients or users at a time. The access point decides how to allocate the channel, both downlink and uplink, frame by frame, and the access point transmit power can be adjusted per resource unit. Now, if you're looking at a more visual representation of OFDMA, this looks similar to the OFDM slide, but now I can talk to 2 people at a time, maybe then 4 clients at a time, and 1, maybe they have a big data payload. Then I can go back to 2, and then 1, and then 3. Again, these are just general examples. But as you just saw with OFDMA, 802.11ax allows parallel transmissions of frames to different receivers. So the fixed overhead is incurred only once for all parallel frames, so I'm able to talk to multiple people at a time. Another way to look at it, and this might be hard to see on the screen, you got to pay really close attention here. The animation goes pretty quickly, but as you can see, the access point can now talk to all 6 clients and the mesh AP at the same time. Again, between 1 and 9 on a 20 megahertz channel, between 1 and about 20 on a 40 megahertz channel, both of which are typically used in an enterprise type environment. And as I mentioned before, OFDMA can be utilized in both uplink and downlink transmission. So this is going to work both ways. And this is especially beneficial because the nature of Wi-Fi use has evolved with the millennial generation and younger. Instead of just downlink traffic, there's a lot more data being uploaded with social media and communication apps. So as you can see, the access point would send a trigger to alert clients when to transmit, and I can talk to 3 people, and then maybe 1, and then 2, and then 1, and 3 or 4, and so forth. So it just works backwards. So the first illustration I showed was on downlink traffic. Now this is on the uplink side. It works the same way, but the access point is sending trigger frames to alert the clients when they need to talk to. In a simpler way to look at it, OFDMA allows multiple users with varying bandwidth needs to be served simultaneously. So think of this story for the transition. Now with wireless or 802.11a/BGN/AC, you take a single package from a warehouse, regardless of the size or the weight of it. You put it in the back of a delivery van. The delivery van leaves the warehouse with the one package, drives as fast as it can out on its delivery route, drops off the single package, and returns to the warehouse. Because all of the vans on the road are only carrying one package, there's a lot of vans, obviously, that leads to increased traffic. Because the vans are trying to drive so fast, there's also a lot of collisions on the freeway. But now, with 802.11ax, you realistically take between 1 and 20 packages from a warehouse, load them all into the delivery van, and then the van drops off all the packages on its route before returning to the warehouse to pick up more packages. So that's inherently more efficient in regards to time, power, overhead, etc. So to summarize OFDMA, the AP controls the medium, both downlink and uplink. OFDMA is really great for low bandwidth or mixed bandwidth applications, and it results in better frequency reuse, reduced latency, increased efficiency. The main benefit of OFDMA is that it allows an access point to allocate the whole channel to a single user if it wants to, or it can partition the channel to serve multiple users simultaneously. So this is the biggest game changer with 802.11ax. So now to get into a couple other features. Introduced in Wave 2 of 802.11ac, multi-user MIMO technology theoretically allows the simultaneous transmitting of multiple frames to different receivers at the same time as well, but they're using multiple RF streams to provide greater efficiency. However, real-world implementation of multi-user MIMO hasn't really occurred, and it's not very practical for a few reasons. Hardly any multi-user MIMO-capable clients exist in the current marketplace. The technology is rarely used in the enterprise. Why? Multi-user MIMO requires spatial diversity, so physical distance between clients is necessary, and that's really hard to achieve in most modern-day wireless environments. So that's not very conducive to multi-user MIMO conditions. With that being said, 802.11ax introduces a few enhancements to the multi-user MIMO technology. Multi-user MIMO will eventually be supported both downlink and uplink, and 11ax adds up to 8 spatial streams for multi-user MIMO to service. There are a few corner cases where multi-user MIMO could be a favorable option. Think of a very low client density, high bandwidth environment, maybe like a room of gamers where there's only a couple people and they need very bandwidth intensive service. But we will have to wait and see if more end user devices support this feature, because both the client and the access point needs to support multi-user MIMO in order for it to be taken advantage of. The support for uplink multi-user MIMO will not be in first generation chipsets of AX, but again, this is just one of the realms. There's a lot of other features that will be coming out. Next, we have spatial reuse, or BSS color. Most modern day wireless networks experience co-channel interference. It's just a fact of life. Overlapping BSSs in dense deployments are often unnecessarily blocking each other from transmitting. And BSS coloring is a way to deal with OBSS and spatial reuse. So to increase capacity in dense environments, we need to increase frequency reuse between BSSs. However, with existing medium access rules, devices from one BSS will defer to another co-channel BSS, and that doesn't increase network capacity. It's actually detrimental. BSS coloring was a mechanism that was introduced in 802.11 AH to identify different BSSs by defining a color bit per BSS to allow access points and clients to identify different BSS traffic, and this will be extended into 802.11 AX. So new channel access behavior will be assigned based on the color bit detected, and it's communicated both on the PHY and the MAC sublayer. 802.11 AX adjusts the carrier sense operation based on the color of the BSS. So depending on the BSS the traffic is generated from, the station can use different sensitivity thresholds to transmit or defer. The result of this is superior spatial reuse. So the bottom line is that the medium is only busy when my color is detected, which ultimately is going to help mitigate OBSS. So this will be a great new feature with 802.11 AX with the enhancements that's being added for the new standard. And I'm sure many of you have seen the negative press around battery life in some prominent mobile device manufacturers this year. To help remedy that, 802.11 AX is adding some power saving enhancements and improved resource scheduling features, including scheduled sleep and wake times, which is also borrowed from 802.11 AX, and that is called target wake time, called out specifically with AX. Target wake time is a power saving mechanism that allows devices to negotiate when and how often they'll wake up or send and receive data. And this allows the station or client to sleep for periods of time and wake up in pre-scheduled or target times to exchange information with the access point. TWT, or target wake time, increases device sleep time and in turn reduces energy consumption. So that's going to substantially improve battery life for end user or end user clients. In 802.11 AX, the target wake time mechanism has been modified to support triggered-based uplink transmission, which means that it supports non-access point stations that have not negotiated any implicit agreement with the access point. And this is a great feature for smartphones, tablets, and laptops, and will also be a key feature for IoT type devices as well. And TWT is going to be a pretty big driving influence to urge mobile device manufacturers to utilize 802.11 AX chipsets in their new products. Because of this, analysts think that 802.11 AX client devices are going to appear at a much more rapid pace in the market than any previous wireless standard. So we're looking forward to that from a vendor perspective, but more personally, I'm looking forward to that so that my smartphone has a longer battery life, so I don't have to cart around my charger with me to make sure that it doesn't die while I'm on the road. There's a few more capabilities for 802.11 AX that I want to cover. Although the goal of 802.11 AX is better efficiency as opposed to higher data rates, there's one exception. First generation 802.11 AX radios will support 1024 QAM modulation, which also means some new modulation and code schemes that define higher data rates. So QAM is quadrature amplitude modulation. If you think back to 802.11 AC, that standard introduced 256 QAM, which equates to 8 bits per symbol. 802.11 AX's 1024 QAM equates to 10 bits per symbol. So the use of 1024 QAM can result in about a 20% increase in physical data rate. And how does that happen? It's achieved using more efficient packaging of data for the same spectrum. So that's similar to using a double-decker bus to make the best use of a bus lane, and it's the main driver behind any speed gains in 802.11 AX. Next up is longer symbol times. In 802.11 AX, about 4 times longer OFDM symbol times increase efficiency. It also improves robustness, especially for transmission in outdoor scenarios. You can think of this one as someone trying to shout down a canyon outside. If you're shouting too fast and the echoes all kind of jump on top of each other, the person on the other side might not be able to hear you. With a longer symbol time, there won't be as much problems with any echoes that reach the other side. So that's going to be more efficient and it's going to clean up the airspace for everyone. Next up, some preamble updates. The 802.11ax amendment modifies the frame format. All 802.11 frames are preceded with a PHY-layer header that contain a preamble. The preamble is used for synchronization between transmitting and receiving radios. The preamble consists of two parts, the legacy and then the high efficiency parts. So the legacy preamble is easily decodable by legacy devices, and it's included for backwards compatibility. The high efficiency preamble can be decoded only by 802.11ax clients. Really, all this means is that 802.11ax is fully backwards compatible with older 802.11 technology. So you can have just one AX access point, it will work with all your older ones, or you can have just one AX client, and the access point will be able to serve both the AX clients and all older client devices as well. There's a few other noteworthy features that we pulled out of the 700-page IEEE specification. Starting from the top, the multi-traffic identifier. That allows the aggregation of frames from multiple different traffic identifiers from the same or different categories, which was not available with AC or earlier programs. The extra flexibility allows devices to aggregate more efficiently, and that reduces overhead, thus increasing throughput and overall network efficiency. Moving down, multiple BSS or multiple BSS ID. That's a feature that was originally specified in an 802.11v amendment that reduces management frame overhead by eliminating the need for each SSID to transmit a beacon or respond to a probe request. Basically, we're enabling a management frame of one single beacon to advertise the presence and capabilities of multiple SSIDs. So that's going to eliminate some of the management traffic. Operation mode indication, that provides an efficient way for client devices to signal the maximum number of space-time streams and also the maximum bandwidth that they'll use to transmit and in reception, and to disable uplink multi-user operation. So this permits more frequent changes to transmit and receive operating mode. Outdoor Wi-Fi is called out specifically on here. The OFDM, as I already mentioned, also some flexible PHY timing, including guard interval. That's going to allow more robust guard interval results and up to twice the throughput in outdoor environments. So there'll be some benefits specifically for outdoor with 802.11ax. Then the last one on this slide, the 20 megahertz clients. The 20 megahertz only operational mode is ideal for IoT clients that could take advantage of things like the 802.11ax power saving capabilities, but not necessarily need the full capabilities that 802.11ax has to offer. And this will allow client manufacturers to design less complex chipsets at a lower cost, which is ideal for IoT devices. So now, what are some of the key questions that we get around 802.11ax? I've already seen some questions come into the question pane, but I want to address these ones first, and then as we get towards the end, I'll start looking at the submitted questions in there. So first up, is there any benefit for legacy clients? Typical Wi-Fi answer, it depends. Clients will need 802.11ax chipsets to take full advantage of features like OFDMA and target wake time. However, there will be some performance improvements for all devices, not just because of a result of newer hardware capabilities of the new 802.11ax APs, things like stronger CPU, better memory handling, that will show some small performance increases. And as we see more 802.11ax clients mixed into the client population, the efficiency improvements gained by 802.11ax client devices will free valuable airtime for the older clients. And that's going to improve the overall efficiency of the systems. Next question that we get quite a bit, will we need multi-gig switch ports? The basic answer that we're kind of standing by is if you have an existing gigabit switching infrastructure, that will likely be sufficient for the next 3 to 5 years or so. If you're looking to upgrade your really old non-gigabit switches, gigabit or even 2.5 or 5 gig switches are recommended. What about on the access point side? So back with 802.11n, There was a lot of hype about needing aggregate gig ports with 2 cables. Didn't actually happen. It wasn't needed. Even with 802.11ac, everyone thought that we would need aggregated gig ports with 2 cables because of the bandwidth it was advertising. That didn't really happen either. So for 802.11ax, we are recommending that in the majority of production networks, 2 full duplex gig ports will be completely sufficient to support AX access points. These will meet the wireless requirements for the foreseeable future, but for those that want additional uplink capabilities due to unique or extreme bandwidth requirements, there will be access points with 2.5 gigabit links in the back, or even 2.5 and a single gig uplink port. And to be quite honest, those 802.3BZ ports are mostly for future-proofing or RFP checklists, but any talk of needing 10 gig uplinks on the access points are pretty ridiculous, because as we know, 50 to 60% of what's shown on the data sheet as bandwidth is actually going to come out as usable throughput. Then what about on the power side? So 802.11ax access points have more capabilities, so they are going to draw a bit more power. We're recommending 802.3AT power for all of the AeroHive AX APs. With our APs specifically, there are a few workarounds for AF power, but with a typical draw of about 18 watts, PoE Plus is definitely recommended. Keep in mind, and again, this is not a sales pitch, but AeroHive is releasing 4-stream access points for AX. There are some vendors that are announcing 8-stream access points. Those are going to need even more power than AT. We've heard of these APs needing upwards of 40 watts. So again, you can choose your vendor. Just make sure you talk with the prospective vendor on what exactly the power draw is before purchasing and installing. The next question that we get is in regards to 8-stream versus 4-stream. Of course, different vendors are announcing different products. We have a few blogs about this on our website, but to address it pretty quickly, there's no real advantage of 8-stream over 4-stream when using OFDMA specifically, which is the biggest benefit of 802.11ax. Keep in mind that some vendors offer dual 5 gigahertz capabilities, which means that you can run 2 4-stream radios transmitting on 2 separate 5 gig channels, and that will provide better performance really than even a single radio running an 8-stream capability. So again, dive into it. Remember that the clients have to support these multiple streams, and the access points do, for anyone even to be able to take advantage of the multiple streams. The last technical feature I wanted to mention is the relationship between 802.11ax and WPA3. WPA3 is required for 11ax certification. It delivers a more resilient password-based authentication through SAE, which is simultaneous authentication of equals. We just did a webinar on WPA3 last month, so check that out on demand if you want to learn more. But the most important thing is now there's a great cohesion between WPA3 and 802.11ax. So we're coupling the security with the newest wireless standard as well. So what does all this mean? Those are obviously the technical aspects. I did talk about some of the benefits in terms of efficiency, but what are these new features going to amount to in the real world? So some of the clear-cut business benefits, if you're looking to acquire budget to purchase 11ax APs, these are some of the reasons to list. And if you're a reseller, you're looking to pitch 802.11ax, these are the features to sell with. So this is kind of the main benefits: increased aggregate network throughput, increased rate at range, peak link throughput, reduced overhead, better traffic management. Bottom line is the increased efficiency in dense networks. That's going to be the main benefit of 802.11ax. And where will we see those benefits? These are just a few of the use cases for 802.11ax. Anything relatively high density will see huge improvements in efficiency with the new standard. So you can see on the top, education institutions are of course called out, both K through 12 and higher ed, because they are all effectively very high density. Wireless office spaces or any enterprise type businesses that have business critical reliability on wireless. healthcare, whether it be a hospital or a clinic, those will benefit. There's going to be a big push for public Wi-Fi adopting 802.11ax. So things like airports and train stations, shopping malls, stadiums, citywide Wi-Fi, and then also a big push for multi-dwelling units. So dense apartment buildings, things like multi-dwelling hotels, dorms, senior living, and then even dense suburban residential homes. These are all kind of the target markets for 802.11ax. So this is all relatively new technology, but I just wanted to go into a couple case studies of customers that are already deployed 802.11ax access points. First up, Wellington College. They're one of the most prestigious colleges in the UK. And they go back hundreds of years in terms of having pupils on campus. Among their many requirements, Wellington College wanted a Wi-Fi solution that wasn't just going to fit their needs today, but also the brand new Performing Arts Center in the future. The Performing Arts Center would easily see upwards of 2,000 clients connecting simultaneously. And so for that reason, they decided to replace their AC access points with AX in dual 5 gigahertz mode to make sure that they're future-proof and able to serve their students over the next couple of years. They also operate a no 2.4 gigahertz policy throughout much of the college just because of interference. So with 802.11ax access points, these also support the dual 5 gigahertz mode. And as I mentioned before, 802.11ax is fully backwards compatible, so you can absolutely operate AX access points along older technology as well. Another deployment is a Troup County school system in the United States. They define each of their classrooms as high density, so they were looking for the latest and greatest in Wi-Fi for a network refresh. They are replacing their 802.11ac Wave 1 deployment with AX access points. And if any of you are in the education market on the webinar today, they're utilizing E-rate funding, so they needed the network to last 5 years. So that's why they went with AX. They didn't want to put in AC technology when that's already 4 years old or so. They wanted to be on the cusp of the new standard so that it will last a full 5 years. Now, unfortunately, we can't name this one by name, but the leading German car manufacturer has already deployed a number of AX access points across different car testing subsidiaries as well. So they have a fleet of test vehicles that get driven in different test operators. And each testing period, they collect a large amount of vehicle metrics. And during a short stop, the test drivers come back and they rotate. All the vehicle data gets uploaded via Wi-Fi and is stored for them to analyze later. And that's used to analyze driving behavior and tune different car systems. The system is designed to scale too, because the more data collected, the more intelligent and refined the car system can become. Ultimately, the Wi-Fi needs to be able to handle huge amounts of data being rapidly uploaded from multiple clients simultaneously. So that's why they went for 802.11ax. It's aimed to deal with Wi-Fi congestion and multi-client performance. And that's exactly why this manufacturer decided to put in AX access points. So I'm sure the next question after seeing people that have already deployed is, are there AX clients? So in all honesty, no, there are 0 802.11ax clients that are available today. There will be soon. We expect to see 802.11ax clients from Broadcom and other chipset vendors introduced as early as this month, but more are going to follow soon. So it's predicted that about 50% of end user clients will be 802.11ax capable by 2020. And with all this information that I'm going through, you might be wondering when you should invest in 802.11ax. There's a few different scenarios, and depending on obviously who you talk to, whether they're sales or product, there's probably going to be different answers. But in the first scenario, if your network is working fine, you might be okay to wait. If the majority of your network is working fine, but you have a few strained areas, you can purchase a few 802.11ax access points to replace or augment those areas. Remember, AX is fully backwards compatible and will seamlessly integrate with older access points. However, if your network is getting a little bit old, a little bit tired, you're looking to do a complete refresh, 802.11ax is the way to go. Anyone that's buying a new network probably wants it to last 3 to 5 years. Some of our customers want it to last even longer. Even though the preponderance of client shipping today aren't AX capable, as I mentioned, the trend is obviously going to keep building over the next couple months and into 2019. Today's networks will see some benefit, but obviously the most advanced features will require an AX access point and an AX client. But if you buy an AC access point, you're only going to be able to meet today's needs and today's networking devices. AX will meet today's needs, but they will also be able to meet future needs as well. So it's kind of the line that we're recommending there. And if you want to learn even more about AX, here's some more resources available. We'll send out these slides so you can hyperlink to some of the sites on the right-hand side, the industry resources. We at Aerohive have put together a lot of resources as well if you want to go and check out and read up a little bit more into AX. To wrap up, 802.11ax is the latest standard. It's a pretty big departure from previous technology enhancements whose focus was just on speed. As I already said, AX was designed to meet real-world Wi-Fi performance challenges, which is nice. And it's going to increase capacity, but it's also going to improve efficiency, supports both bands, so we'll be able to serve more clients. And it's going to become the new default standard. And as we move into 2019, most vendors are going to start shipping the product, so it will become more prevalent in the marketplace. So with that, Natasha, if you could go over the free AP slide rules, I'll start looking through the questions and we'll try to address a couple of those in the next few minutes.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Alexandra. Attendees of this webinar may be eligible to receive a free Aerohive access point. You can see the qualification rules up on the screen right now, and they're also available on our website. An Aerohive representative will be reaching out to you in the next 3 to 5 business days to go over the qualification rules and see if you may qualify for the program, as well as answer any questions that you may have. Now I will hand it back to you, Alexandra, to answer some of the questions that may have come in.
All right, try to work through these. First one, will AX chips include features for WPA3? So yes, for 802.11ax, WPA3 is mandatory, but just as clients need to support it, we need to wait until clients support WPA3 to be able to support them on the access point side. So all of the AX access points that vendors are shipping will be able to support WPA3. Another question, and we do get this one a lot, will having a mix of AX and older clients slow down the access point because it has to broadcast on multiple standards? So yes and no. When the access point is communicating with a legacy device, it would obviously communicate at that lower speed, but any clients with higher speed processing capabilities, the network will be able to communicate with them at the faster speed. So your network will not slow down to the lowest common denominator. It will be able to serve all the different devices at their speeds that they support. Because access points typically are 2 radios, you can set 1 radio to serve legacy clients and 1 radio to serve, AX or AC clients. So you can segment the network so that it operates most efficiently based on how you configure it. Let's see. Assuming no legacy devices will work with AX unless the vendors combine ABG and AC with AX in the same AP. So the nice thing about the Wi-Fi Alliance is that it requires all vendors to be completely backwards compatible on every access point. So even with the Aerohive 802.11ax access point, it supports AX, but it also supports all the other standards on that single AP. So it's going to be able to support everyone. Let's see. Questions about a site survey tool. We'll take those ones offline. A couple specific questions about how to enable specific features in Hive Manager. We'll let the salespeople take that off since it's supposed to be pretty vendor neutral. Let's see, is it software or access point software upgradable to AX? Unfortunately, no. So because it's a brand new chipset, it will be a hardware upgrade from 802.11ac to 802.11ax, and that will be the same for all vendors. Will AX APs have software-defined radios that can run dual 5 gigahertz? So with Aerohive, yes. I'm assuming most other vendors that support dual 5 gig will also support that on their AX access points as well. Let's see. So will target wake time improve battery life on my smartphone? It will, but only if your smartphone is AX capable. So all existing iPhones or other smartphones out there do not have AX chipsets now. So the next iterations, probably next September, I'm guessing will have the AX chipsets. So starting then, you'd be able to take advantage of target wake time. Now another question, what's the difference between multi-user MIMO and OFDMA? Went over this a little bit, so just a basic summary. OFDMA is best for low or mixed client bandwidth demands, small packets, because we can segment the channel into resource units to serve multiple people. Multi-user MIMO is better for small numbers of devices or clients that have really high bandwidth needs. Remember, the access point and the client have to support that to be able to utilize that. Let's see, how are OFDMA resource units allocated? That's dictated by the access point. So if the access point has an AX chipset, all of the resource allocation will be done in the access point itself. And that's important to now ask your vendors what their CPUs look like, what everything looks like in the access point itself, because they're going to need to have enough intelligence to be able to support that functionality on the edge. So there's a couple of protocols that are built in that allow the access points to be able to allocate where the resource units go. You can have it dynamically shift depending on the client, or you can set up a dedicated resource unit. Like if you have a mesh AP, you can dedicate specific resource units to completely serve that. So there's a couple different ways you can go about that. Will there be an AX Wave 2? So that's all signs point to yes. So with 802.11ac, there was a Wave 1 and a Wave 2. With AX, everyone's kind of calling it Phase 1 and Phase 2. But yes, there probably will be 2 separate phases. OFDMA and target wake time are supported in Phase 1, which are what we think are the biggest or most important technical specs. So that will be hitting the market first. So we're excited about that. What's the time frame when AX client chipsets will begin shipping? There are plug fests going on right now, which means that manufacturers are testing their AX clients with AX access points. Those are kept under pretty strict lock and key, so we don't know exactly when they'll begin shipping. We're guessing there'll be a few clients shipping this year, but moving into 2019, the larger vendors will probably start shipping, the Samsungs and the Apples of the world, probably 2019. Let's see, is there a performance hit when set to support older non-AX devices? I kind of addressed that one. Your access point will function at higher speeds when it's talking to newer devices, and it will function at a little bit lower speeds with legacy devices. But it's great that you can have one radio set to serve legacy devices, one radio set to serve newer devices, and that should eliminate any of those problems. Another one is AX compatible with previous 802.11 modes. Yes, fully backwards compatible. More questions about devices. Of course, Aerohive is shipping AX access points. There aren't any client devices out there yet. You'll probably see the other big wireless vendors start shipping access points with AX later this year. We always like to say, back when HD TVs started coming out, there weren't a lot of channels that supported HD TVs, but people were buying HD TVs. This is kind of how AX works. People will buy the access points now, and when the clients come out, we'll be able to support those. Another question about 1024 QAM. Yeah, it does need negative 35 dB signal strength. What would be the ideal deployment to achieve that in high density? So quite frankly, you have to be pretty much sitting on top of the access point or right under it to achieve that 1024 QAM. So it's probably not going to be fully usable in an enterprise type environment. But a lot of times when we deploy access points, we actually lower the signal strength so it has a smaller coverage area. So it's better able to serve the clients when there's more access points. You just need to make sure that there's not interference going on between the APs. A couple other questions coming in specific to Aerohive. We'll take those offline. I think I got to most of the major questions. Natasha, I'll pass back over to you to wrap up, but we will have people reaching out individually if there's any questions that we didn't get to.
Thank you, Alexandra, and thank you everyone for joining us today. For the questions we didn't get to, yes, we will have our team reach out to you individually, and we also will be sending out the replay of this webinar to you in the next couple of days, hopefully maybe even tomorrow. We have many more webinars and resources posted on our website at aerohive.com. Thank you again for your time and have a great day.